How does IHL differ from international human rights law? Imagine a world where laws change depending on whether there's peace or war. That is the core difference between international humanitarian law and international human rights law. Both aim to protect people, but they do so in very different ways. International humanitarian law, also called IHL, applies only during armed conflicts. It kicks in when countries or groups are fighting, whether the conflict is between nations or within a country. Its goal is to limit the suffering caused by war. It covers things like how soldiers should behave, what weapons can be used, and how civilians should be protected. On the other hand, international human rights law, or IHRL, works all the time. It protects people's rights during peace and war. It sets rules for freedoms like speech, assembly, and voting. These rights are meant to be protected at all times, no matter what is happening in the world. IHRL mainly binds governments, making sure they respect the rights of everyone within their borders. Sometimes, these rights can be temporarily suspended during emergencies, but core rights like protection from torture stay in place. Another key difference is who the laws apply to. IHL binds everyone involved in a conflict, including governments and non-government armed groups. It controls how they conduct hostilities and treat civilians and prisoners. IHRL mainly binds states, which are responsible for protecting the rights of people in their territory. It also applies beyond borders in some cases, like when a country exercises jurisdiction over its citizens abroad. The content of these laws also varies. IHL has detailed rules specific to war, such as how to distinguish civilians from combatants, what weapons are allowed, and how to mark hospitals and aid workers with symbols like the Red Cross. IHRL covers everyday rights like freedom of the press, equality, and protection from discrimination. Some rights in IHRL can be limited during emergencies, but fundamental rights like protection from torture cannot be suspended. Enforcement is another difference. IHL includes mechanisms for holding individuals accountable for war crimes, like those responsible for torture or targeting civilians. It is supervised by organizations like the International Red Cross and Red Crescent Movement. IHRL relies on governments and international bodies to enforce rights. It usually does not directly punish individuals, but aims to hold states accountable for violations. Both sets of laws can apply at the same time during a conflict, but IHL is considered the more specific law for war situations. It takes precedence when rules conflict. However, IHRL still applies to issues not covered by IHL, such as the right to a fair trial or humane treatment in detention. Finally, the focus on protecting civilians is central to IHL. It explicitly safeguards civilians, those injured or captured, and even cultural property, and the environment affected by war. IHRL focuses on protecting individual freedoms and rights, but it does not have detailed rules about objects or the environment. In short, IHL is a specialized set of rules designed for war, aiming to reduce suffering and protect those caught in conflict. International human rights law offers broad protections for human dignity at all times, whether there is peace or war. Both work together to keep human rights safe, but their specific rules and when they apply set them apart.